Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to say that I'm definitely glad to be back. I was sick all this weekend, sore throat, earache, just sitting there not doing anything. So if you're healthy, you should not take life for granted because honestly, you don't really realize what you have until you're sitting at home doing nothing. So you guys are dressed up today. Make the most of your day because this is your life and you only have one life to live. So Glenn was saying that candidate sourcing is the most important part of recruiting. So I'll say it again. Candidate sourcing is the most important part of recruiting. He said the first thing is think before you search. And I just want to start out with a quote. Abe Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." So it's the same thing. If I take a pen and I constantly hit my arm with it, and I use the bland side, I can hit my hand for 10 hours and it's not going to bleed. If I take the other side of the pen that's sharpened
Ouch.
and hit it, maybe 10 times, it might start bleeding. So it's the same thing with our candidates. And I know you guys already know this, but it just goes to show that if you send over mediocre candidates, like Alex was saying on the job boards, then they're just going to keep coming back and nothing's going to hit. He also said before you start doing a search, you should spend at least 10 to 20 minutes thinking about it. And that just goes back to show that anytime you do something, anytime you have a dream or a vision, it has to be in your mind first. Another quote that I've heard before is, as a man thinks, so he is. So I really do believe that. The second thing is do not overanalyze resumes. As we said before, people are not professional resume writers. They may have forgot to put something in there. They may not know someone. And he said, I thought this was interesting. Do not read resumes. Don't read resumes, scan them. And I think that that's important because you could have the right person, but he just may not have put it in his resume. Another thing, of course, he says is we hire people, not paper. The third thing is do not run generic search strings. You'll just get too many results. Don't run title searches, either because companies use different names. Good recruiters use semantic searches, which I thought was pretty good. So instead of searching for sales, you want to search for cold calling, lead generation, because that's going to bring up the more important thing because a lot of people use different titles. For instance, sales, business development manager, account executive, they're all the same thing, but most companies use different titles. The fourth thing is see each resume as more than a potential match. It goes back to always have a second agenda on every call. Remember, every candidate is a conduit to a larger network of people. Run multiple searches across multiple sources. There are always other places to look. He says no matter what, you can never exhaust a search. He says he believes that he can prove us wrong every time if we say we looked everywhere, because that's not true. There's just so many places to look for different candidates. He also says search all resumes. You never know a person's situation, and everyone is a candidate. Because even if that person may not fit, he might work at a company where he knows a couple people that do fit. And he also says, now this I thought was very interesting, don't submit the first 2 or 3 candidates that you feel are a fit. He actually says find 10 good candidates, and the first people that you submit are going to be out of that 10 rather than just the first 2 that you found. It's going to take longer, but the people you're sending over are going to be more quality. He also says don't be a sourcing snob. If you go fishing in the ocean and you can't catch tuna, does that mean that there's no fish in the sea? No. He also says it's like walking into, and I don't really like to use this illustration, but if you're single, walking into a bar and then going home with the first person you see. So,
not always a good thing.
Okay, and then so that was that. And he also said that as far as submitting the first people that you see, he said it's statistically impossible most of the time for the first 2 or 3 people to actually be the right people for the position. You know, it's very low. It's like 10 to 20%. So presenting should not be on a first in, first out basis. It should be on a best in, best out. Let's see. Doing first in, first out. Okay. So the 9th thing is to seek to continually improve your sourcing skills. Most recruiters, when they're given an assignment, we just start searching. There's no training. Most people just say, okay, go find this, but you know, we don't think of a plan, we don't think of any goals. You know, it's like a track coach telling an athlete, okay, I want you to run the 200 meter in 10 seconds. So how am I going to do that? What are you going to train? How are you going to train like that? It's the same thing with you, Alex, going to a competition and then telling them to beat this guy, but they don't tell you how to do it. They don't teach you any of the technique. So as recruiters, we have to have technique. So the 10th thing is spend 80% of your time using high-yield sources. Use your own database. Search in there first. The database was actually used for that specific thing. So that's pretty much everything. Does anybody have any questions?
That's good.